I woke up this morning surprisingly rested. I had a late night last night, which is almost my new normal. As you get older, you don't need a lot of sleep. I think the Lord said, well, honey, you need to stay awake and enjoy life, especially if you're my age. I am an avid reader, but I miss the times, which have been decades ago, to be honest, that I could just pick up a book and open it and read it and didn't have to look for my glasses and adjust the glasses and make sure they're sitting on my nose right and making sure the light is right. I guess I'm complaining. I don't mean to do that. I have transitioned from books to a Kindle. One of my great grandchildren bought for me, and I love it. I felt as if I was cheating for a long time because I like to hold a book in my hand and smell the pages and, well, another thing that as you get older you get real good at it, and that is making adjustments. So, enough of my complaining. Since my last recording, my children have told me that they enjoyed it immensely. I was surprised. I was just playing around with some of the options on my tablet, but I enjoyed it as well. Talking about my life and reflecting, going down memory lane, it didn't really make me sad. God has been good to me. God has been good to my family. So, to be able to talk about it the way that I can talk about it, I know how wonderful that is. And I am so very thankful. It's kind of interesting. You know how you say a while ago or a few years ago? Well, for me, some things really did start a few decades ago, literally. A couple of decades ago, the women in my family started getting together. Well, actually, before then, probably 3 decades ago, we started getting together to just talk. I personally believe that you never stop growing and you never stop learning until you take your last breath. At least I hope so. I love being a black woman. I'm sure most women of any culture probably feel the same way. Oh, women, I think of all cultures, have challenges that men don't have. But I think that men, especially black men, have challenges that we as black women don't have, and certainly men of other cultures do not have. But as I said, the women in my family started having what I refer to as the gatherings. We had food, we had different types of non alcoholic drinks. We actually kind of let those, what do you call, wine cooler things, for the younger women who wanted that, but there were so few of them, we didn't have to worry about them overindulging. But the point is, we had. Now, remember, I told you there's not many women in my immediate family. So we had to pull in nieces and cousins and their friends, and it has grown into something uh, pretty awesome. So we have them once a month, usually here at the compound. That's what we call our homestead because there's so much room. Um, I'll share that with you another time because I think it's pretty special. But everybody likes to come here. That makes me feel good. Makes all of my family feel good because, well, it just makes you feel good. The ages range anywhere from early 20s to my age, and we talk about everything. I've learned so much about younger generations. They would probably be surprised because they expect to learn a lot from me, and I hope that they do. But I never stop telling them that I learn from them. What I want to talk about today is how disturbed I am by what is happening within our community. I believe that a good, strong community comes from strong families within that community. Strong families are the result of strong relationships. Now, families are made up of so many different components. It's always been like that. But now it's even more so as people, lifestyles, and a lot of other things have become so diverse. You know how our families have always been. Extended family has always been very much part of the root system and the core of most of our families. Relationships were pretty much the same for a while. You have traditional families, you have contemporary families, you also have traditional and contemporary relationships. There's probably another name for the contemporary part, but that works for me because, as I mentioned the last time, I am a musician. I am a skilled musician who likes different types of music. But when it comes to gospel music, I prefer traditional hands down. Now, of course, being the musical director for my church for such a long time, I had to open my mind to accept and appreciate contemporary gospel, and I do. It's not that I don't like it because I do. It's praising God, so how can I not like it? But traditional gospel just touches my heart, touches my soul. I'm sure my age has a lot to do with it, but not completely because I have peers that have actually grown to prefer contemporary gospel over traditional gospel. They find traditional gospel kind of boring. I don't. Now I have to work with the hymns sometimes. They can be a little bit, um, well, slow, but there's a time and a place. Um, Maybe it's just the frame of mind you're in or what your spirit needs. But I have had some good spiritual, uplifting experiences from an older gentleman on his knees, breaking out in a beautiful, mournful hymn. So I guess my point is there's a place for all of it. And when it comes to relationships, I guess there's a place for all of that too. So, mother, don't forget, I'm old, right? So if my tongue gets twisted, well, you just gonna have to deal with it. Okay? I hope it doesn't get too bad, but as I said before, I'm disturbed by what I almost feel has become the disintegration of our communities. But I'm gonna skip over and go to the relationship part. When I hear the young women talk about their expectations and what is expected of them from the men that they meet, at first, oh, I guess about 25 years ago, um, 25 to 30 years ago, when I first started hearing young women speak of their criteria that they had for the men that they wanted in their lives, I thought they were kidding at first. But as I said, I am an avid reader, so I read all kinds of things. And some of the most popular black magazines and TV shows had started to show black women becoming more educated, which is wonderful. Um, and it seemed like the more educated some of the women became, the stricter the criteria came or became or developed into for the men that they were looking for. I knew that it was taking a path that was going to be bumpy. I don't remember hearing much about love. I heard a lot about having the same or more level of education, um, money. They've added credit score to that recently. I thought that was kind of funny. Oh, we called it credit score. Now I think they call it FICO score. Same thing. Oh, back then it was what kind of car he drove, what kind of clothes he wore. Um, Still no mention of love. It was almost like they were looking for a partner to start a successful business. We would talk about it when we would meet, but most of the young ladies who came to our gatherings were very strong willed. And during that time, that system of belief that they had put together, it was very strong and very much supported. Now, we hear a lot about black women being strong. Yeah, we are. We are strong. We had to be. Um, but that doesn't mean that black men are not strong as well. Um, it breaks my heart to see that now we have become so divided. It is like there's this battle between black women and black men. How are we going to have healthy relationships if this is becoming the norm? It's very frightening to me. As I said, it's heartbreaking. Um, when we're talking and let me interject this. I know that I am a forever romantic. I love the idea of love, even when that idea is almost a fantasy. And I say almost because I believe I lived my fantasy with Mark. And later in these recordings, I must explain a little bit more in detail and be sure that I did not leave the impression that Mark and I had a perfect marriage. We were perfect together, but we did not have a perfect marriage because we're not perfect people. And I've never wanted the ladies to think that. I had to very gently make my granddaughters and my great granddaughters understand that without taking anything away from my husband. I think I did that because I tried really hard to be honest and I tried to be fair. I am their Gigi. I am their granny. I am their mama. But I'm a woman, an imperfect woman. And I don't ever want them to think that I'm perfect. That is too much responsibility, honey. I don't need that. But we need to understand. We need to teach. I'm out of this game. I talk and I share with the young women that cross my path now, and I don't get out as much as I used to. I get out, but I'm an old woman. I hope that I have left a legacy that will continue to grow and to teach as we learn. And I'm very careful not to judge the thoughts or the actions of other people. I don't have time for that. I'm even at my age, I'm still trying to make sure I stay right with the Lord. Or just right, period. To me, there is the love between a black woman and a black man is beyond beautiful to me. We are so deep. There's so much vibrancy within us. It's a part of us. We love hard and we love strong. I'm not saying other cultures don't. I don't know. I can only speak this way about my own. As a woman, as a black woman, there are few things in life more gratifying than hearing a black man call his woman baby. And I can say that as a 90-year-old woman. But we'll talk about that later too. because younger generations think that they invented or discovered love and physical love, I mean, and sex and all of that. So I have always thought that was hilarious. But as I said, we'll talk about that later. But right now, if we don't find a way to respect and appreciate each other as black men and black women, I don't know what will happen to our people. I don't. I'm not going to say that we have always been so united in every way. That is not true. But even though we've always had the haves and the have nots, people don't like to talk about that, but the haves and the have nots have always been there. We've always had a little social ladder within our people, whether it was money, whether it was complexion, whether it was where you lived, or who your parents were, or who you thought your parents were. It was always something. I think that's just a human thing. It seems that trying to make sure that we stay on an equal basis, even within our hearts and our minds, is too much of a challenge for some of us. We talk about the majority race, how they view us, which is true. Not gonna change. Um, Not within the lifetime of anybody who's listening to this. But we got our own issues and within our race we don't want to talk about. But like I said, that we'll probably touch on that another time too. But we know all of this, so I don't have to go over there right now. But we need to find a way to come together as couples. We need to find a way to fall in love first with ourselves and opening up our hearts to fall in love with people who look like us. Now, let me be clear about this. I'm saying this, and I can also, or I am going to also say that I am in favor of interracial relationships. Why? Because God made all of us. And I don't think that love should be determined by the color of one's skin. My problem is that I'm hearing too much chatter that seems to be born of the belief that our black men and women are not good enough for other black men and women. That's my problem. Love who you want to love, but don't refuse for no other reason that I'm not sure what. If that's what, or if that's who you're attracted to, that's one thing. But that's not what I'm hearing. I'm not hearing that. I'm not hearing much about love, period. Um, yeah, there's a lust factor and a chemistry factor, or should I say chemistry before lust? I'm not sure. But I don't even hear much about that. Because this generation, well, most generations are very sexually active. Generations before have just been more discreet. Now there's no boundaries, which is also sad and very, very confusing for younger people because they're just kind of fumbling around. And what's really frightening is how many older people are just fumbling around. I'm talking about 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds. I even know a few 70-year-olds, and they act like they're 15. It's amazing. we have lost our edge. Now let me say what I think our edge is or was. I believe that God gave us an extra dose of strength and need and ability to survive. I'm not saying he didn't give other races extra doses, but that's not really my concern right now. Even when the divisions that I just spoke of were present within our people, the fact that we were black people or Negro people or colored people, wherever you may fall at that time in this country, we had a bond. We had an unspoken bond. We could walk into a store or pass another person on the street, we would make eye contact. It was just, there was some kind of acknowledgement. You didn't yell across the aisle or run and hug the person. It wasn't necessary. It was just an acknowledgement. I see you. I see you. You important. Almost stay safe, because those things were so needed. Now, well, not just now, when I was up and around, so most certainly 3 decades ago, I began to see that people, my people, would turn their heads away before they would acknowledge that they saw me. Or they would just pretend that they didn't see me. They didn't turn away, they just looked through me. I have tried to figure out why. I have not been able to come up with an answer that has come up in conversation many times over the years with my peers and my friends and family. Even in the gatherings, if it happens to come up like that. I've had young women talk about how difficult it is to have relationships with other women. Now, let me be clear. There's going to always be, and I think there's always been, a certain amount of competition between women. I'm not a man, so I'm not going to even go there with that. Women have always known that men are physical. They can look at a woman, if she's beautiful, she can be a hot mess, but they don't care. They don't even see that. They're blind to that. That is not new. That has always been the case. And yes, there are women who can see a really attractive man. He can be crazy as a bed bug. We used to say Bessie bug. They don't care. So it's always been complicated. Please don't think I'm trying to say that younger generations have made it more complicated. They haven't made it more complicated. They just confused it and taken it and just, it makes no sense. I don't even want to say confusion because I don't even know what to call it. I don't even know how to describe it. I just know that it is detrimental to my people, our people. which means that our families are not going to be strong enough to withstand all of the things that have always been the enemy of our people. We're not united enough, and our families as a whole are not strong enough. The definition of family has changed so much, which again, it's never been what television wants you to think, but there was strength there because we understood that if we don't take care of ourselves, nobody else is. So we're going to have to. How are our communities going to survive if we have lost the insight to know what the what our roles are? Men and women don't even know what roles they should play. Women women and men don't even know who the head of household should be. It's it's a tug of war. It's a battle between egos. It's a battle between paychecks. It's a battle between job titles. It's amazing. It's amazing. And this has just happened, I think, within the last 30 years. This much damage has been done. Gradually, you could see where a woman taking care of her household, taking care of her husband, taking care of her children, having pride and a feeling of accomplishment in doing so became something to be ashamed of. I was fortunate enough to be a housewife, and I also worked outside the home, but I worked outside the home part-time. But I worked full time and some more in my household, and I was there to help Mark build up our businesses. When I think back, only God could have gotten us through all the challenges that we had. I can't even see how there were enough hours in a day to accomplish all of the things that we did. Although he had all kind of structured um, plans, and they drove me crazy, but they worked. He was the head of our household. I didn't want to be, um, and thankfully, he was excellent in his role, making sure that he had a hot meal and clean clothes and a clean house and well mannered children and whatever else I could do to make his life easier. It didn't make me feel weak. It made me feel strong, strong in my love for him. I know that working himself near to death made him feel strong. He was doing it for his family, for me, and for his children, and for future generations. That was one of his strongest drivers. And he was not alone. He was not alone. It still makes me angry to hear people try to denigrate black men to the point that they do. Yes, there were too many black men who walked away from their families. But after thinking about it for a long time and watching it happen to some of my friends um, and relatives as well, sometimes I think they left not because they didn't want to be there, but because they were just tired. I think some of them felt hopeless and afraid. Now, is that an excuse? I'm not saying that. It's not an excuse, but it is a reason. It is a reason. And today, it's different. It's different. Um, but we need to stop and we need to ask ourselves as a people, have we done enough for our black boys? Have we done enough to make them understand that they have the support of their families and their communities? Have we? Do they know that it's okay if you don't play sports? It's okay if you don't even go to college. But you need to learn some kind of trade. But first, let's talk about why you think you can't make it in college. You would probably be shocked at how many young men, intelligent young men, who would do very well in a 4 year university, they don't think they can. They don't. Nobody has told them that you're wonderful, you're special, and you like we do our little girls. Little girls, especially pretty little girls, are taught that they can do anything they want to do from the time they can crawl. And that's wonderful. That's the way it should be. But it should also be that way for the little boys. For our little boys, our little black boys who are going to grow up to be black men, who are going to be in a who are going to be in a society that will judge them by the color of their skin, their choice of clothes, their choice of music, the texture of their hair, even the cars that they want to drive. You do realize that everything we do, that's black women and black men, everything that we do is scrutinized and judged either by the majority race or by people within our own race. So it's not easy. But would I change it? No. I still consider it an honor to be a black woman. I look at my black boys and my heart swells with pride. I look at my black daughter, and even though her husband is a whole lot less than I would wish for her, she's amazing. And my black boys were taught that they were just as special as my black daughter. And you know what? My black daughter was still treated like the princess that she is. It can be done. You can have some princes and a princess. You can do that. And those princes can grow up to be strong men, and the princess can be a strong woman. She doesn't have to be a spoiled brat. She does not have to think that the world revolves around her, and she can do and say anything she wants to. And see, as a woman, I'm honest enough to say, for a pretty woman, sometimes that's a challenge. Sometimes that's a challenge. It is definitely worth conversation. I encourage my family to engage in dialogue. Don't just sit back and hold on to what you've learned. What is the point of wisdom if you don't share it? And you can learn something from a 2 year old. I always use that as an example because when you see a 2 year old determined to get something that they have been looking at probably for the last 18 months, wanting to touch it or throw it or something, nothing really can hardly stop them. They can fall, they can run into something. It's just like when a baby starts to learn how to walk. They fall down and they get up. Nobody really has to tell them after that first couple of times when they're kind of startled, when their legs are not moving right, and they look at you like, oops, what happened? You help them back up. They see they're standing again, and they keep trying. They know, deep inside, they know, I got to do this. I got to keep on doing it. And the smart ones who decide, I can do this over here when I feel like it, but I really want you to pick me up and carry me, and they make people do it, I think it's hilarious. I do. But they soon find out, no, it's more fun if I do it myself. Watching life around you with an open mind and an open heart, you never, ever stop learning. When you close your mind and think that, oh, well, I don't need to learn anything else because I know everything else because I'm smart and I've lived and I'm X number of years old, so I must know. Well, no, 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 no. If you think like that, you have probably missed a whole lot of life lessons. But I'm going to speak more about relationships. I did some generalizing here. I do want to get a little bit, I want to share some of the things that I've learned from the ladies that I've been blessed to spend time with. Things that they've learned that they shared with me, things that I've learned that I've shared with them. And I still have a couple of friends that are still living that are able to come to our gatherings. Um, it definitely keeps us mentally active. It gives us a lot of joy because we've spoken of it many times to be able to see these women and hear these women, even when they're saying something crazy. It's still, we're still here, you know? We're still living. We're still part. We're still women. We are still women. We're all women, but we're women. And for that, we are thankful.